So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7. I guess I'm the secretary tonight. 7:02. Do we have any oral communications with the public or items that are not on the agenda? Okay, close oral communications. Do I have a motion or discussion to approve the minutes from the May 16th meeting?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. So in terms of the agenda, we did have new business, and then we were going to run into old business, which I guess the fee schedule is the first one. So shall we just go ahead with the old business so we can cover the new business? If other people don't want to hang around for that. Although I do probably understand that this safety element is sexier than the master fee schedule. But
Isn't there some new stuff too?
is there any what?
Is there any new, I thought on the agenda, the first thing that happened was, sorry, I thought the first thing was that anything that wasn't on the agenda.
We've already done that, Karen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Stay with us. Stay with us.
Okay, sorry.
We've done oral communications. We've approved the minutes. Now I'm asking for an agenda. We were going to have new business, which was the safety element, and Parks and Rec comment on the safety element. Instead, I was proposing that we jump into the first agenda item on the old business, which is the master fee schedule, because I know we have guests here, and that is why they are here.
Good. Let's do that.
Okay. So we are jumping into old business. First item is the master fee schedule.
Okay. I'm having some audio problems, so bear with me here, but you can all hear me. You may hear a dog barking in the background because I can't get my AirPods to work. So let me make sure that I'm in the right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do want to make one comment. There are several pretty kind of heavy-handed items on the agenda tonight, and I know we've usually had a pretty loose way of running the meetings in the past, which I enjoy and encourage. Tonight I'm going to be a little stickier about the protocol, for lack of a better word. We are going to go through the presentation. We are going to have committee questions first. Then I will open it up to the public. I would like to limit each public comment to the 3 minutes, and I would like to limit each person to 1 comment session only. So that means no interruptions, no clarifications until it's your time to speak. Again, I think that's just to keep it flowing and to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak. And so I'd ask you all to kind of respect that. Thank you. All right, Karen.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Can you see this?
No.
Okay, let's try again. Hang on.
You want me to
Okay,
share?
this is a new allow Zoom Workplace to share your screen. Well, this is all brand new. I'm very sorry. This was all set up before.
You want me
Let's
to
see if
share?
this, boy, hang on a second.
Yeah, you're in the workplace. You don't have to be. It is more,
Me?
it's
Are you
almost
talking to?
confusing. Yeah, I'm just saying that you can pull up the workplace or you can just pull up the regular Zoom and then just the buttons are in in the normal place for share. You may,
No, I'm getting a screen that says you can now share browser tabs. I'm getting a whole new thing on my Zoom screen. So let's
right.
just, and then it says open system settings. So I'm going to have to,
Okay.
um, sorry, go to privacy and security.
Yeah, because you're in workplace. Okay.
Okay, well, I should have you over here. John, you might have to run over here. Um, sorry. Boy, should have practiced this before it started. I've never had this problem before.
Right.
Okay.
I'm happy to share if you want me to.
You might have to. We're going to try one more time. And I have to enter a password. I'm not sure which password it wants. Okay. It says Zoom US may not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. Um, I'm gonna have to, well, let's see. Let's see if this works. If not, I'm gonna have to log off and log back in. Sorry, guys.
Well, I could share.
Yeah. Highly for sale.
There you go.
Can you now see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Okay, finally. Okay. All right. So, as you know, we're here to talk about recreation fee and the study and our recommendations. And we'd like to have a robust discussion about our recommendations that will go to the town manager. So, excuse me, I have to. First of all, the matrix fee study that was recently done um, looked at cost recovery for fee-related services. And what we learned is that the fees can't be more than 100% of the cost, but there are certain exceptions, such as facility rentals. We also learned that Portola Valley is doing actually much better than the industry average. We're at 58% of cost recovery versus a range in the industry of 20 to 50%. On the sport user fee, because Portola Valley charges a per user per season fee, the analysis from Matrix did not actually make an apples to apples comparison to neighboring towns and just indicated that neighboring towns charged an hourly rate for their fields. And there were some other soft issues we thought didn't get covered, which we'll go into more. So in the council meeting, the town council did request that there be a little bit more analysis done by Parks and Rec before they would make decisions. I think it's important to note that Parks and Rec reports to the town manager and is not a decision-making body. We will make our recommendations to the manager, and from there, hopefully it will go to council, but we make no guarantees of that. Why am I not? Okay, so before we
Can I
start,
just ask quickly about that? We report to the town manager. I thought we were, um, a committee that gives advice to the town council, and that there was
No,
no actual.
no.
Oh, is
A
that right?
non-Brown
Okay.
Act committee that reports to the town manager.
Okay.
We
Interesting.
are an advisory board to the town manager.
To the town manager. Okay.
yes, we are an advisory
It's the
board to
first
the
I've
town
heard that in
manager. So
25
some
years.
key points to consider,
Yeah.
and Patty and I have gone over a lot of things together, and we're sharing them with you. And we know there'll be questions, but hopefully we can hold them till the end of the presentation. But an increase from the recreation fees is actually going to be of minimal impact to the town revenue, and we'll show you a slide in just a second. We also noted that the court fees were not addressed in the matrix study, and it's important to note that the fixed cost or the cost recovery system is a bit wonky because we're charging a variable per user fee, and yet cost recovery is going to be looking at what does it cost to maintain the field or the admin costs and such. So if you had 10 users sign up for a season, you'd end up and sorry, I should back up. What Matrix presented was that for the sport user fees, it was $137 per user as of 100% cost recovery. So if you have 10 users at 137, you'd get $1,370 would be necessary for cost recovery. But if you have 20 users for the same field and time, their analysis would indicate you'd need $2,740 in cost recovery, or twice that much. And we are questioning that methodology a little bit. We also talked to some of the other leagues and clubs, and what we learned is that if the rates increase significantly, that they would explore other options. We're not the only fields in town, and there are other options out there. However, about a 10% fee increase would likely have no impact on usage and going elsewhere. Um, we also wanted people to know that many organizations actually are helping Portola Valley to maintain the fields and the courts, which is saving money for Portola Valley right now. And who knows if rates go up, if that kind of contribution would continue. We also feel that we really, if we want to validate certain data and do this right, and I want to stress this is it's a rough analysis. The numbers you see are ballpark, if you will, but are they exact? We can't guarantee that unless we had a lot more time to do that. So keep that in mind as we go through this. I'm having trouble moving my, oh, sorry. Okay, so as I mentioned, um, I got this data from Tony in terms of what the 25-26 revenue is from the youth leagues, the youth clubs, the adult leagues, and the adult clubs. And as you can see, it's just shy of $80,000, and that is less than 1% of what our town revenue is. So even if we were to double this revenue, it really doesn't have a huge impact on the bottom line for Portola Valley. Ah, oh, another thing we wanted to look at is what has been happening with our fees, and they have been increasing. This chart just really quickly shows you that for the youth leagues, which is Little League and AYSO, it was $41 in 2021, and it's $44 now, and that's slightly less than a 10% increase or so. Whereas the clubs have the youth club has gone up from 61 to $67, and the adult clubs have gone up from 91 to $100. So you can kind of see the increase there. And then you can see over on the far right column what Matrix is recommending. And one of our concerns that we expressed to the council is that the um, local organized youth leagues went from $44 to $82, or I can't remember the exact number, but over an 80% increase. So we were very concerned about what impact that could have. Um, boy. Um, the other thing that we noticed is that the outdoor space rental fee for the picnic area is charged per person, and the Redwood Grove is charged per event. And we found that a bit curious. And as you can see, Matrix is recommending that we go from $3 a person to $13 a person for the picnic fee. And we thought that that was a tremendous increase. And down here, I put that the Matrix cost recovery is 13 for the picnic area, which I don't know if that's per event or per person, but the Redwood Grove they list as 18. And again, I'm not sure if that's per event or per person. So this needs some further review. Am I skipping slides, Patty?
All over the place. Yeah.
I'm sorry that the thing isn't going in order. Okay. So in terms of
Yeah, we're following you. This is good.
In terms of the soccer field market rate comparison, in order to get apples to apples, what we did is we took the number of players times that player fee. So let's say there's 100 players and it's $44 a player. And then we divided by the number of hours that the specific club or team had reserved. So that gives us a comparison to an hourly rate. Is it perfect? No. Does it give us a ballpark? Yes. So the data we were given from the town is, on the number of users is here in the first column, number of users. And then the rates, when we use this formula, show us that for AYSO, they're paying approximately $37 an hour at Portola Valley. Woodside, using their 875 a month for Barclay, would be $22. Palo Alto is an interesting municipality in that they want to really promote youth sports. So they heavily subsidize those fees, but they're at $9 an hour. Menlo Park, and I want to verify this, and I put this up here, is that this isn't different for leagues and clubs, youth sports, is charges $110 an hour for the full-size soccer field. And Los Altos has both a resident and a non-member rate that I've posted there. So these are the comparison numbers to kind of show you where Portola Valley stands using the data that we've been given. And you can see that we are higher than Woodside and Palo Alto for the youth organizations, but lower than Menlo Park and Los Altos. And with respect to the adult clubs, which are the bottom three, this comparison looks at, because the number of hours per week are lower, that's why the Woodside 180, or excuse me, 80, the 875 a month divided by fewer hours actually comes out to a higher, a higher fee per hour, when you look at it that way. So this is basically giving you comparative rates. The other thing, when I talk to the PV Adult Soccer Club, is I learned that they are lining the fields every week. Strikers, Concordia, and the PV Adult Soccer Club, and that equates to about $5,000 a year that they're contributing and saving the town money. The other thing that was pointed out to me is that Rosati's the usage there is drastically reduced due to lack of parking availability. And even on their reservation forms, it shows them reserving Rosati's, but they're not using it because they just can't get there. All right, on to Little League and the softball. So these, again, numbers from the town for the number of users. And because the number of users are so high in Little League, it brings that cost per hour way down. But the hours that I was given by the town and the hours that Little League says they use the field, there's a discrepancy. But I used the hours from the town because that was on the reservation form. But I think there's an important note here that when you reserve for the season, the hours you can reserve more hours and not use them, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. And you can sort of see the comparison but at the top line, what I wanted to show you is if you don't put in anything in terms of the contributions that Little League is making to the town. So I just was informed today, actually about 20 minutes before this meeting, that they're approximately putting in, let me check my text and how this was worded. I'd say it's an average of $4,000 a year for, I'm going to say, for the field, for the clay, the surface conditioner, the tools, the hoses, the repairs, etc. And then every 2 to 6 years, they do special projects for the town, like cage upgrades, netting, turf, etc., backstop padding, new infield mix, new sheds, replacement bases. So they're providing all of that. So that when you factor that into that cost, that's the second row you see, which would be $8 a player, which then gets more in line with Woodside and Palo Alto. The other thing is that Alpine Little League spent 40, I think it was $42,000 on a tractor for the maintenance of both Ford and the town softball field, and they do all of the maintenance on the infield. So again, I put in the $42,000, and so this would be for 26. They're paying $26 a player. And I don't think we can rule these, if I'll call them soft costs out when we're making the comparison. And for PV softball, you can see they come in at $71 a player, versus Woodside, if they played all their games at Barclay, would be 22, Palo Alto 67. Menlo Park, and John, I need your help on this. They charge a per team per season fee for their adult softball league. And Los Altos is the same for the field rental across the board. Okay, now on to town courts. The first thing I want to point out is we've asked the town for a cost recovery of the courts, and we do not have that data yet. We know that the pickleball club per participant pays $100 per season, or the club pays $100 per participant per season, which is the same rate as the field users. And pickleball supplies the blowers and blows the courts regularly. So when you do a comparison, and these are the number of users for spring, winter, and summer that I was given, Portola Valley comes out at $29 an hour for a tennis court. So that would be 4 pickleball courts. Whereas Palo Alto's at 8 for residents, 11 for non-residents, and you can see Menlo Park's at 10 and 15. Los Altos only rents to residents. So that gives you an idea of the market comparison. So this, I feel like I have missed some slides. Patty, have I missed some slides, or are we cruising right along? Hang on, I'm going to go back here. I apologize.
We're
No.
following you if that helps.
We've seen them all.
I'm waiting for the picnic
I
slide.
know.
Okay, I guess we're going in order. Thank you.
No, that outdoor space, you had it.
Yeah, okay. So now we're at the moment of truth here, which is what do we want to recommend? And this is a starter. This is all a draft for discussion. But Patty and I were looking, and if you look over to the right, we think based on what we saw, and we know that indeed, revenue is important to the town and costs rise, and we should be increasing our fees as such, and that a 10 or 11% increase is, in our mind, a very fair way to look at this. We think that people will stay. It's much higher than the CPI, but it does start to help us out a bit. And for pickleball, we were going to recommend that we just not increase their rate. We're not recommending lowering rates at this point in time, but not raising that rate given the cost comparison. And then down here for the picnic rental, and this is where my data is. So I was given 2024 data on picnic rentals, and there were 23 rentals. If you go down to the bottom of the slide, you can see this, ranging from 8 to 50 participants. And remember that right now we're charging $3 a participant. So that equates to $24 to $150 of revenue per rental, averaging $75 per picnic. If you go to $13 a person and using the same number of participants here, picnics would cost between $104 and $650 an event. And in addition, Matrix is recommending a $492 application processing fee for rentals and a $25 hour cleaning fee. So we logically thought we should charge per event or per hour. and there should not be an application fee for this, particularly, if you're talking about 8 to 25 participants for the most. I think there were 2 or 3 at 50 participants. And what this would do, if we went to $100 per event, your cost recovery obviously varies by, well, it varies by event if you're using a per person fee. But if our average was $75 an event and we go to 100, we would be increasing that fee by 33%. But we felt that that was reasonable. Okay. Some other things that we noted that we want you guys to comment on and pay attention to is there's a lot of new fees that are proposed, and we're worried that they add complexity and costs to the town and that maybe they require further review. For instance, a class instructor application fee is now would be $197, whereas there was nothing before. All these had nothing before, so bear that in mind. And the town charges 20% of the class revenue. A facility rental application fee of the recommendation is $492 per application, and yet some of the room rentals are lower than that number. There is a new fee for charging town-sponsored organizations such as Portola Valley School District or the Priory, which is at $82 a person per event. I don't know if that impacts the Corte Madera tennis team or not. There's a lot of questions that we have. There would then be new deposits that need to be made both for field court rentals and all the clinics and classes. So again, the class instructor would have to pay this $500 deposit as well. There's a new facility rental storage fee of $144 a day, a cleaning fee that they want to charge for both facility rentals and sport user fees or field rentals and court rentals, I would presume, at $25 an hour. A new key deposit fee, and this ranged. There were different amounts, but $140 or $150. This is in addition to the room rental deposit that you're making. And there would be a new staff consultation time of $246 an hour for the rental. There's a new charge for a non-public agency for a facility rental, a new charge for a special event permit, which I'm not quite sure what that would include, at $246. And if you rent the kitchen with community hall, that would be an extra $83 per event. So we wanted to make you aware of all of these new fees, and given that they've never been implemented before, we are wondering if we should do some more, just really look at these and what is it going to cost us to implement them versus what's the revenue that we're going to get. Some other recommendations are that even though we could raise fees tomorrow, or the council, once they decide the fees could go up the next day, we think that as a courtesy, we should give a 30-day notice, even if it's not legally required. We also think that for this year, because the process is pretty far down the path, that we stick with our hourly rental rate for fields and courts, but we start working on an hourly rental rate as we move forward post 26, 27. So ideally starting in the 27, 28 year. There are things on the fee schedule that need to be clarified. For instance, does that instructor have to pay the application fee, the cleaning fee, the 20% of revenue, the key deposit? There's a lot that's been built into this that it needs clarity. And we do think that the town should consider a credit card processing fee if that's not in there already, because that's very common. And the town needs to continue to identify and implement efficiencies in cost structures and looking at if there are ways to do things that could be improved. So that's what we have for you tonight. And we're interested in your thoughts, questions, and then we'll go on to discussion. And I'm going to stop sharing for now.
Thank you very much, Karen. Karen's put a lot of work into that in a very short period of time, as have many other people giving their input. So really appreciate that. Thank you. Committee members, of which I guess it's you, me, and John. John, do you have any questions?
I don't have questions. I would like to study it more in terms of what's actually being recommended. But I have a pretty
Okay, no
lengthy
discussion
comment.
now. No discussion, just
Yeah,
questions.
that's fine. No, I don't have any questions.
No questions. Okay. So right now I'm going to open it up to the public for public comment. And unless Darcy, do you want to make a statement, or you can ask questions, I guess. Technically, you're kind of part of the committee.
Thank you. I guess I'll just say that was a lot of information. And I think what's important to note here is that there's two parts of this. There was the study by our consultant, and I just want to emphasize they're very, database. They calculate these fees. They did a report. If you're wondering where that is, it was part of the May 27th council packet. But a key second part of that is sort of taking the consultant's study and packaging it into what's an Excel file for you nerds, but essentially our fee schedule. And so you might want to also take a look at that. And that includes a little bit more granular detail, but that's essentially what the council is looking at adopting. So it's just important to note they don't actually adopt like the study done by the consultants. They take that, they make a policy decision about how to apply the fees, and then that ends up in, quote, the master fee schedule. And that is also in the staff report. And there are a lot of policy decisions here, but I would emphasize that these fees are really more of an art than a science. We got the science part of it from the consultant, but I don't want anyone to think that like those are the fees, because generally what happens is that the consultant does their study and then the council makes a policy decision. So I guess in listening to what Karen was saying, it just sounded, to be honest, quite like negative around the consultant's numbers just being complicated. And they are, but they are very much like, a mathematician with just a level of precision around what is the cost. And then there's a policy, which is again, more of an art. And so that's what we're hoping to get your input on. And certainly around, I think you've asked some really good questions. I don't know the answer to all of them, but I think it would be great because I think you framed a lot of good questions to ask that would obviously then go into developing the actual fee schedule. If that helps.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to open it up to the public now. Is there anybody from the public that would like to make a statement?
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay. Two or three things. First, thank you for considering the fees for the pickleball, and I do understand that this is a little bit of contention. Let me just go back a little bit on kind of how this came to be, because originally there were no leagues on the courts. The tennis courts didn't have any leagues, so there were no fees, so there's nothing to be concerned about. There were fees for a long time on fields, so both softball and soccer have been paying fees for a long time. All of a sudden, the league started on the pickleball courts, and then the town said, "Oh, by the way, you are one of the clubs that gets charged a fee," and so that became the same fee as the one for the fields. There was no distinction between, and I would just argue that there is a distinction between. The only thing that's common between us is we are leagues. The things that are different, obviously, one's a set of fields with a lot of maintenance. One is a set of courts with almost no maintenance. And to make sure that everybody is aware, the pickleball players do almost all the maintenance themselves, including the trash pickup and everything else. We take care of the courts ourselves. We wash them. We roll them off with the dryer. We do a lot of things to maintain the courts. The things that are kind of not in common is the costs are very different. So there, if you're trying to relate it to the cost, right now the costs are grouped with all the fields. And what that means is that the pickleball players are subsidizing the field people. So if you were going to raise fees, it makes more sense to raise the fees on the field people. And in fact, you have done that. So we appreciate that. There's also the capital costs. There's been virtually no capital costs been put into the courts. There's been $40,000 put into the fields, obviously, for the study for Ford Field, and there will be hundreds of thousands of dollars to deal with in the future for Ford Field. When that's compared to the courts, it's a very different animal. And all I did is compare I tried to get the comparison, and Karen did that with her chart. I had $8 an hour for the players, which came out to be $24 per player per season. This is for Palo Alto, and ours is $100 per player per season. And so obviously there's a huge distinction between the two. I think that it would be much better if in your the town general ledger, you had expenses for the fields versus expenses for the courts, so that you have a fair comparison in which to be able to set the fees. And I did ask for that in a town council meeting. I don't know that there was any traction on that, but I just think that would help this discussion, and everybody would have an understanding of what the costs are. Well, those are my comments.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Anybody else would like to make a statement?
Yes, Patty, I'd like to piggyback on what Bob said.
Sure, Tom.
Yeah. So I would also like to thank you for not recommending that we increase the pickleball fees. I think one of the things that I'd ask this group to take a look at is, and this I expressed in an email to you, Patty, Karen, Bob, Cindy over the last few days, is that the fee structure for the fee structure for the town appears to be based on soccer and softball leagues that play somewhere between 10 and 15 games a season. In pickleball, our teams are only playing 6 matches a season, and only half of those are on our home courts. So we're actually getting charged, no matter what comp you look at, whether you compare our hourly rates that we pay to the town for pickleball compared to our peers are paying 1/3 the rate that we're paying. And by my calculation, and my calculation may be wrong, the charge to play on a softball team is 1/5 per game as it is to play a match on a pickleball team. And I believe that's because these fees were built around 10 to 15 game seasons, whereas pickleball is only typically for most teams is 6 matches per season, only half of which are on our courts. So I would ask this committee to take a serious look at that while you're updating the master fee schedule. This is the time to get it right, because our pickleball players know that we've been seriously overcharged for years, and we'd appreciate you taking a look at that.
Thank you, Tom. Dave Cardinal.
Sure. I'm going to up-level it a bit, because I'm not going to argue or quibble about the specific rates, but I do think that it'd be great to look at this as Parks and Rec, starting from a policy level, which is, what do we want to accomplish? Do we want to maximize revenue, which I think is probably not the goal, because like someone mentioned earlier, it's not that much revenue to the town, or I realize it's a lot of revenue at Parks and Rec. Do we want to maximize usage? Do we want to, like, if we raise rates and it drives some leagues away, is that okay because more residents can play drop-in? So I would look at it from the top down and say, what do we want to accomplish? Who's using them, who's not using them, and then drive the rates, not so much by cost recovery, but by policy, by accomplishing whatever the goals are for the committee. So that would be my approach, and then let the chips fall where they may as far as the money, because it's not going to bankrupt the town either way. So thank you.
You, Derek. Okay, any other comments? Okay, I'm gonna pull it back to the committee then. I do want to answer Bob's, it wasn't really a question, it was more like a statement. Bob, you did encourage us to pull together the court-related costs. And we have, as I think Karen pointed out on her slide, we have asked for that so that we could look at what the cost recovery ratio would be for the courts, but we have not yet received that. So we have put in that request. Okay, John, this is point for your discussion here.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm on my phone now because I think my internet connection wasn't great. That was a ton of information, but I actually want to do some more background information just so everybody has it. So first of all, for those who don't know me, I've been on the committee for 25 years. I actually run the adult softball league and the adult soccer league, the co-ed leagues. I've coached and been on the board of the youth soccer leagues, little league, etc. Right? There was at the town council meeting, there was a part of the presentation was that we increased it. I don't know how many years ago, call it 16 years ago. I was actually the primary person driving that. We were given the goal by the town council. It was Ann Wingert was our primary person involved at that time, taking the lead, we'll say, to try to get to 50% of the costs. We were at it was at $15 per player per season at the time. We, in the end, doubled it, tripled it, and even quadrupled it right at that time on many of the clubs and the leagues, right? And part of the process was we got everybody in a room for hours, right? All of the representatives, Little League, youth soccer, AYSO, and club, etc. And we talked through it, addressed all the issues. This was at a time when there was a kind of bit of a financial crisis, by the way, right? We need, as maybe we're in now, but nonetheless, and we got agreement from everybody to do this, right? And after spending many hours, there was a few concepts that came out of it. One was, and I was a little concerned that the town council didn't know even what the league schedule is or what the fees really are now. But at that time, we differentiated between clubs and leagues, right? And between youth and adult, because it was $15 per person, per player for everybody. So the reason, just as background, first of all, we thought that the adults should pay more than the youth. We felt that in the end, there is a difference between clubs and leagues. The big one, of course, is in youth soccer, where that's now called, I think, the Stanford Strikers. They have professional coaches, and so the amount, for instance, you pay as an annual fee when you're in a club soccer, youth club soccer, is over $1,000. That was 15 years ago, so I don't know what it is now, right? Versus like $100, because it's just a very different cost structure. So, but we didn't feel like we could use that as justification. So what we ultimately decided is the difference between clubs and leagues is that a league, both teams on the field are paying the fees, right? So in AYSO, they're all local. In the adult softball and soccer, they're all everybody on the field is paying the fee. In a club, at least for games, right? There's an opposing team from a different area, and they are not paying fees. So that's why we ended up deciding that we couldn't pay twice as much, because there's also practices, not in adult, but there is in youth. And so it ended up being 50% more, right? So, and kind of part of the point is this was all considered and thought through and worked out at that time, but that was again 15 years ago. We just chose not to go to an hourly fee, and we can, since all the other towns do, maybe we should. I will tell you that if you do the math on that, it's going to increase the fees dramatically on the youth and decrease them on the adults. Because, for instance, in the co-ed soccer, we use the field for 3 hours a week. Youth uses it about 15 hours or more per week, 5 times, right? So again, the fees would have to be 5 times more for it to make up for that, which they're not. So anyway, so those are considerations, I'll say. There's others, which is that the question also is, I think, who is a user, right? Because we go to these clubs and these leagues, but there are actually other people on these fields. And just this something to tuck away in the background is the way that it was defined as to who pays and who doesn't pay is if you reserve the fields. Okay, so there can be pickup soccer. So we could turn the adult softball and soccer into just pickup, right? And fields are all available. Frankly, Little League could, because there are no other users of Ford Field, right? It's just Little League. And so they could just say at any point, all right, never mind, right? And we're not going to pay anything. If anybody else wants to use it, go for it. But again, they're the only users, and that's actually true for a fair amount on the other fields. Nobody's using the softball field in the summer, just the adults, right? So we could just say, okay, if anybody else wants to come and use it, that's fine. And it's just a side note. It's just all these other considerations, I'll say. And so that comes into a bit of what percent of the cost should we cover? And it was 50% at the time. And I'll note that there are a lot of other advantages to having maintained fields for the town, other than just the people that are paying the fees. Just something to, again, tuck away. And then the other thing is we got deeply into the actual cost structure for when we say here are the costs. I actually recommend everybody go really understand what those are. At a very high level, what I remember 15 years ago is that there were 2 primary things. They were including the labor of the maintenance team that's there, and they're including water for the fields. Those were the overwhelming costs. And so again, the question is, what percent of those costs? Let's just say we said, okay, well, maybe we don't need as many maintenance people, right? Or maybe we water it. I don't know, but I would recommend kind of really understanding what is included in these costs. And the only other point is on the pickleball costs. There's no question at the time there were no clubs and there were no leagues. There was nobody scheduling it. We've talked about having a basketball league maybe there. Actually, that's just the court isn't good for that, and so up using the court down there. And so this whole thing I agree with all the pickleball people. We just at some point a few years ago said, look, now there's a club, right, or a league, or there's people want to reserve the courts. So what should we charge? And the only thing that was there was, it actually says, the application says field/court user fees, right? So we used it because it was never meant to be any, it was always for both, even though it wasn't ever calculated for the courts, right? So there's no question that for the pickleball/tennis, we have to go do the same analysis, just separate out the costs, have the same target for how much are we going to cover, and establish fees, with that whole kind of process. Anyway, that's just some background. I know, again, there's already a lot of information. I just thought people here should hear the story. Hey, that's my comments. Thank you.
You, John the historian.
Right.
Appreciate it. No, that was helpful. Thank you. Okay. Um, Karen, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I want to, can I pontificate? I mean, I know I presented, but there's a couple things I realized in listening to folks that I also think is maybe relevant data. One is Menlo Park just announced their fee increase and it's 10%, and it is effective July 1st. And the rates that I put in the presentation are the July 1st, 2026 rates. So if you want to sort of do a market compare, we have a neighboring town that is also struggling to find revenue and balance its budget, and so they have raised the rates 10%. Um, I personally really like Palo Alto's philosophy of promoting youth sports, which is why they heavily subsidize that. And I again, I think that that is a great thing to do. So when we look at the percent of costs, maybe it's 50% overall, as John talked, but the youth rate would be lower. And these are policy decisions that the council ultimately will make. But that I I personally feel that the youth sports should be subsidized more. I also am very concerned about adding complexity, as we mentioned, to this schedule. I think that the new fees that are in there, number one, I don't know if people understand how they all work and are they in tandem with other fees and all of that. But I'm worried that we may actually increase our costs to administer them, and maybe decrease usage. For instance, if it's 400 and whatever that app fee was, 497 to rent a room that costs $200, I'm not going to do it, right? So we shot ourselves in the foot with that. So my goal is that we really try to keep things simple. And for that reason, I do think that we need to revisit hourly rates. I think changing the picnic rentals should be really easy to go from a per person to an event fee, just like we do it with the Redwood Grove. But the ones where we're charging the per person per season, I'm worried that if we try to change the structure of the rate, that we're going to cause more work for town staff, which is not what we want to do right now. So those are just some thoughts that I had.
Okay, I guess I'll chime in here. So as a finance person, I'm very, I'm leaning much more towards a fee structure that is not per person or user based. The example that we gave on one of the first slides about depending upon the number of people that you submit for your soccer club or for your picnic rental, is how you get charged for the same space. So fewer people for your picnic, you're spreading it over, the larger cost per person. Let's grab as many people on the town center and bring them into the picnic and lower our cost. It just intuitively, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I think, to Karen's point, it adds complexity. A soccer club, $200 an hour, makes sense. And then we can monitor it too. Today, on a per person basis, they can use the field 24 hours a day if they want. There's no incremental cost to them, none. And nobody's monitoring that. And I don't think we should, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we should monitor the number of users. I don't think we should monitor cleaning fees. I don't think we should monitor keys. I think we need to raise it to the level of what's important for us to track, what's easiest for us to track, what drives the right behavior for us to track. And I don't think that's the current fee structure. If you look at the matrix that Darcy pointed out for recreation fees, is like 3 pages long in, 8-point font that you can't read. And I would guess that we as a town in total haven't really taken a decent, strong look at every single one of those line items and asked if they make sense. And I think that's how Parks and Rec can contribute. I'm frustrated that we were not included as a partner in this process. And I think we're trying to bring up some questions now that are the right questions to ask for the town to develop the right policy. And I do believe 100% that we should try and maximize revenue. Our town is in a very, very dire financial situation. But raising recreation fees a large percentage is not going to close that gap and could drive away people from the parks and recreation facilities in our town. So that's my speech. Karen, do you want to go back to the slide where we make the recommendations? So to John's point, some other point, I think, and Darcy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the way the town council is going to address this is making decisions, at least currently, on the amount of cost recovery that they want to target. And so if we go back to the recommendation page, can you make it big? You're muted, Karen. Now you're not sharing.
I had to unmute to go to my audio to then go back to, so one moment.
You're just having a night, aren't you?
I am. Okay. Okay. Oh boy, look at all these things. Okay, there we go. Is this up for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things I was going to mention is Darcy talked about the matrix fee, and I do have that in here, and their fully loaded costs. Those sort of sandwich the Parks and Rec fee here, but this was looking at the cost recovery for our recommendation and the percent increase. Now, interestingly, what Matrix had recommended is decreasing the fees for the
No, they didn't.
oh, I'm sorry. No, they didn't. They all went up. I thought
So
there
what
was
we're recommending is for youth leagues, a 36% cost recovery, for adults, 80%. And I do think that we should put a placeholder on the pickleball until we get a fully loaded cost number, because I do think that is an important part of the equation we need to look at. Certainly not raising them, but I think we should, personally, I think we should punt on that until we get that number, so we make sure that it's reasonable in line. That's my opinion. But
and we don't know when we're going to get that. We haven't heard back. But the other thing is would it make sense to request, because these fees can be implemented quite quickly, they don't require the 60-day notice that the planning and building fees do, that were approved in the May meeting. Should we recommend that we take a couple more weeks to get the data right?
well, I think that's what the committee would have to vote to recommend to Darcy.
Well, I don't know. The issue with timing, Patty, is that this has to go, the council meeting's on Wednesday, next Wednesday, and the packet has to be out. I think it has to, everything has to be done by this Thursday. Darcy, are you still there? Can
Yes,
you?
hi. Yes, that is correct. So the council continued the May 27th meeting, and because it's a public hearing, it was expressly continued to the June 24th meeting. So that hearing will take place unless it's continued again. I would say that one thing that has been a more pressing concern and a revenue concern to the town is the community hall rentals. So I don't know if there's a way to bifurcate that, but from a staff perspective, that is an area where it's not only, I'll just say like an administrative challenge, because we get a lot of requests for example, from public agencies who right now are charged nothing. And the fee actually is proposed to be lowered. So for the group, the community hall fees right now, I think are around like $2,700 if a resident rents it. And we do get quite a bit of resident rentals. And I think it's proposed to go down to $1,200. That might shock you, but you know what happens in this fee schedule is you're trying to right size the fees, and sometimes that comes up. So I'm wondering if you might consider bifurcating some of those.
Well,
Because
let me tell you kind of what I did, and maybe this is wrong. So we focused on the fees for the recreational facilities, which Parks and Rec has a charter for facilitating. Community hall, to my understanding, is not under the purview of the Parks and Rec committee. So therefore, did not focus on those, except for we wanted to point out some of the inconsistencies and anomalies that we thought were part of the fee structure relating to the community hall. So that's the attitude that I took. You can tell me if that's wrong or right. If we were going to take a look at the community hall and do a recommendation, we would probably need more time because we did not focus on those.
Yeah, and Darcy, this was one of the things I noticed as I was going through this. The community hall fee, this example you gave, the current room rental is $27.77, and the recommended rental for resident only is still $2,777. But what Matrix did is they dropped it. I don't know why, for a current for a memorial service. They dropped it from no, they kept at the same. That's lower. So they didn't, but they added the public agency to it.
that was not the intent. The intent was to lower the community hall rental fees for everyone and make one rate. So maybe
Okay,
it's
not
not coming through in the
No,
fee
the
set.
matrix, I'm in the detail, in those detailed spreadsheets, and the matrix recommendation has several rates, which again, we thought, gee, could that be one rate? That sure would make it easier for staff and quite honestly, probably, for people reading the fee schedule too.
So I can tell you that was not the intent. So I don't know what page you're looking at of the matrix study, but what I see is that we were going to recommend reducing the community hall from $2,777 to $1,028. And I'll also add that because it's a reduction, I think our attorney wanted us to apply that essentially now. But the community hall would have one reservation rate for everyone.
Okay.
I think maybe with that you could pass along your questions, but I'm of the mindset that the community hall it's not recreation related. And I think it would be great to get your input on the sport user fees and frankly, if you need more time, you need more time. I mean, AYSO is already doing signups. I think the fall sports, their fees are already set. I mean, you tell me, but it seems like no matter what, it would be hard to put this into effect for fall sports. So I think that gives us some time to keep working on them.
Well, we have a meeting with you on Thursday. I don't know if it's in time for the materials to be affected. We would certainly like to have more time. We've raised some questions here that we think, as you can see, are relevant to some of the issues that we have to resolve. And if we could get more time, that'd be great, particularly if you want us to take a look at Community Hall.
I don't think so. I think with community hall, in my mind, just, it's more the cost of us renting the hall and our staff costs than anything. I don't know that it's the same equation of like balancing like the value of youth sports and stuff. Generally, cities do full cost recovery for rentals and subsidize recreation, courts, etc.
Yeah.
But I would like to propose a two-part. Staff would like to take the community hall, the rental fees to the council next week. If you have questions on that does relate to a recreation component or something that might be confusing, that would help. And then I think with the sport rentals and recreation facility rentals, I think if you could revisit this at your next meeting in July, that would be helpful. And potentially we go back to council in August. They have a meeting August 26th. Maybe we could try to make that one.
Karen, maybe what we could show instead is I have the matrix up for the community hall. That would be.
Do you want me to?
Do you want to screen share that?
Do you want
just so we can make sure we're looking at the same thing?
The screen share. I have it. If you don't.
I have it. Hang on.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, hang on. Where's my, whoops. Oh, I have to get out of here. Sorry. Okay. I pulled this off. Well, this is going to be hard to read. Sorry. But I put this into my own spreadsheet. But if you want to go to the community hall rentals, this is where I highlighted all the new fees in red. So there's as we talked about, the instructor application fee.
And you have to make it bigger.
Oh gosh.
At least less complicated or something.
I can't, this is not in a spreadsheet. This is not in a Google slide. This is
Can you get your own back wallpaper out of there somehow?
Do you want me to screen share? That way I can just walk through.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So let me get out of screen sharing.
You have to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. So just give me a second. Okay. So this is the May 27th council packet. You can see this. I'm just looking for the community hall.
Well, you need to go all the way to the end where the
it's way down here. Okay.
It's page 178.
Oh my gosh, now it's breaking off the power. Okay, 178 of the packet. Okay. Oh my gosh, come on. Okay, so here we go. So, and just in hearing you talk, I see where there might be some confusion, but so for example, the proposal with the community hall is that everyone pays the same rate. It's 1,028.
No, Darcy, you have to go to the
Uh-huh.
page beforehand because that's the community hall nonprofit. There's a page before that says community hall resident.
Here, yes. So what's important is that to note is that it's not the recommended fee, that column, that's not actually the recommended fee. It's the total cost. And so this, I will to say this spreadsheet is very confusing. You need the decoder, but the decoder is that the total cost column here, that's the recommended fee.
But it says recommended fee
It's
right to the right of it.
that is the current fee. So
No, the current fee is
Is under the current fee.
there's current, go to the top of the page and you can see the labels. Current fee, total cost, recommended fee. And you'll see for community hall, for residents, they recommended that it stay the same.
that's not my understanding. Maybe we should go back to the matrix report. I will, side note, and this doesn't sound very professional, but that table is very confusing. You need a decoder, which would be Tony walking you through it. But let me go back to the matrix study because that's what was used to populate it. So if you look at this and you go down to, oh gosh, hold on. You go back up to the rentals. My understanding is that we were recommending a lower
think
amount.
The new one, the new fee was the public agency. That is actually a new one where maybe you guys we weren't charging before.
That is correct, yeah. But what we were trying to get to was one fee for everyone.
You're way too high up in the
Oh
study.
gosh, okay.
Here, let
okay.
me, I have the study printed out. Let me find it.
For the study, okay.
It is.
I think we might be getting too into the weeds here.
Yeah,
I wonder if we should, try to figure out what we're trying to solve here. So, okay, maybe we could bifurcate this. Can we get a recommendation on the field and court youth fees, adult fees, so that maybe some of the other people on the call who don't care about community hall can go to bed? And
Do you
sorry,
want- do you
looking
want me
out
to,
for you there, John.
Thank you, Patty.
Is the committee recommending that for youth sports, we recommend a 36% cost recovery? For adult sports, we recommend 80%, that we hold the line on pickleball until we get a court fully loaded cost, and that we move rental space to a per hour or per event rate.
well, the picnic rental space, to clarify, yes.
Picnic rental space, yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm in agreement with that because I'm,
John, would you agree with that?
The only the one of the big questions I have is why would we not on the first of all, there's no question that on the pickleball or the courts that we need to understand the costs. We don't have that, and so we need to do that first and foremost there. Then and on the rentals, yeah, I mean, I think you guys know that much better than in terms of the picnic and all that. I've never really gotten into that. You know it much better, so I would just trust kind of what you've done there. On the fields, I only question is whether we should just now move to a hourly fee. It seems to be what the norm is, and I think just simply increasing it, a certain amount. It's even a 10% increase is a big difference for some that more than others. And because, for instance, the amount that you're talking about on the adults is actually more than we currently charge total in terms of the fees. And so, so I would just, again, I just question whether we should be kind of, should we just keep pushing it, the kind of down the road, or do we actually go and adopt something? If we're going to do it, should we just kind of move to a structure we think is the right structure, right? Which is on the hourly basis versus per user. There's all kinds of issues with the users too. Can I just real quick, just to give you a sense of why I kind of, it's in the back of my head for all these things. How many users really are there for that youth soccer? Because these are organizations that go across multiple towns, right? So how many kind of club soccer players really are there? In Portola Valley, when club soccer goes into Menlo Park, I don't even know how they're coming up with the number. I know how many hours they use, right? And even that has its issues. Sorry if I'm just kind of going off on this, but because the way it's worked historically and still is that the youth soccer club, the Stanford Strikers, they actually control the schedule. The town doesn't, right? They actually go, well, what hours do you guys, what's your schedule? What do you want? When do you need the field? And we tell them it's been the same for 25 years, so it's not much of a conversation. But they just have it for the whole rest of the time, right? They have all the other hours, and how many do they use? I don't know. It's worked, and so that's fine. It's just I don't know how they come up with the number of players they have. And I don't know how many hours they would say they use it if they were to say that. They probably, they have their practice and their games, so they probably know that more so, right? So the point is only, what structure do we think is right? And this seems like one of those times. Since the last time we did this was like 15 years ago. Why would we not do it right now if we're going to do it, right?
So,
yeah,
no, I think that's a really good point. And I guess my thoughts are, so first of all, John, to your question, in this presentation, and I'll share it after the meeting, we use numbers that are on the registration forms that the clubs and leagues give. So for instance, Alpine has 240 players in the spring and 60 in the fall. And that, to my knowledge, they use Woodside, Portola Valley, and Fields and Menlo Park, the La Entrada and Oak Knoll. So I think that we do trust them that the numbers they're giving us actually, and AYSO said there's 200 of them. Although I don't know where all they play, but I know they're in Woodside. So we're using those numbers that they're giving us the number of users that's there. I think it makes sense to move to an hourly rate system. However, I think there needs to be a lot of analysis done prior to doing that because, for instance, right now, I think they have Little League in the spring using the fields, or what they have on their form is 76 hours a week between the two fields, 40 at Ford and 36 at Town Center. And if you go to an hourly rate on that, we need to do an apples to apples comparison and really understand what's going to happen to our revenues as well as the fees that certain organizations might get charged, whether it's more or less. So I don't think we can. That's why the proposal, the thought was, let's stick with what we have now and let's get to the hourly rate for the next year, the next fiscal year, to give us time to truly analyze it and figure out what makes sense and what impact that is going to have to the town's revenues and bottom line.
Yeah, so if this is like a 1 year thing, they've been doing that for the last 5 years, where they do what they call cost of living adjustments, right? So,
unfortunately, no. I think we have not been. There was an era where no cost of living adjustments were applied, and that's why some of these fees are so behind.
Well, but
that's a different way to look at fees. I've done that before, where you just go back and apply those retroactively.
Yeah, but for the last 6 years, we have been raising the fees, which is the chart I showed. So, I mean, we can say, oh yeah, we didn't raise fees for a while, but again, that's kind of gone, and
Yeah,
that's why
why
we're trying to do
matter?
the market rate
Why does it
comparison
matter?
of
Because
today.
we should be looking at competitive rates,
Yeah,
not just us in a vacuum,
yeah.
because we don't live in a vacuum. So, yeah, John, I certainly agree with you. The fact that we're the only township in the zip code area that's still using, a per user system tells me that maybe we're behind or ahead. I don't know. But I think it is going to take us time to do that analysis and make sure that we set the right rates. And, I'm not sure we have that amount of time. So this is kind of a stopgap measure.
Yeah, so therefore I think we should do something limited, right? Is 10% limited? That's, if you decide or for, it's all to kind of decide, but yeah, there's been annual increases, whatever was the justification. It was actually never brought to the Parks and Rec Committee, by the way, each of these increases. It was just done at the town council level with the town staff, I presume. But offhand, given discussion, my recommendation is to allow some increase, but more in line with what has been happening over the last 5 years, and not try to do anything dramatic, especially if we think we're going to try to do something in the next year where we kind of really kind of restructure it or kind of move to a whole different structure. Right.
So
And
instead of the 10% increase, what would you recommend?
well, whatever it's been only a 3 to 5%, I would think. I thought that's why I called it cost of living adjustment, because it felt like it was kind of like inflationary numbers, and maybe that's what inflation number. When I go to the store now, 10% is small.
Well, right
but,
now, yeah, we won't talk about inflation right now, but yeah, I
So-
mean, a CIP would be around percent.
Yeah.
Roughly.
So anyway, 10%. I mean, we'll all live with 10%. Nobody's going to, kind of revolt over that. The only one that's way out of line is the pickleball, probably, frankly. And there's probably something, we can do in the near term around that. But everybody else is going to be, all right, we'll eat that for a little while. But as long as we're thinking that we're going to do something, different, within the next year, and really kind of come up with something that's based on, or, a real competitive analysis.
So would you support roughly a 10% increase across the board, with the exception of pickleball, until we get a fully loaded court cost?
Yeah, and the only other thing I would say is, it'd be great if we could get all the users in a room. There's a fair amount of emails, and that's fine. But I can tell you, it was very effective when we did it, where we got people in a room for.
Well, I think we would do that. I think we would do that if we substantially changed the denominator.
Right.
I'm not sure I want to do it for a 10% increase.
That's right. And there's probably something, by the way, we can come up with in the near term, just as a recommendation for the pickleball people. Again, they're just using a number that happened to be on a chart. Right?
I understand, but
right. So why don't we just come up with a number for them, right? And that we think is part of this recommendation. It's not going to affect the overall number anyway, right?
But we have no basis for the number. I mean, at least asking for
do.
the court cost would give us the same methodology, for lack of a better word, that we're using for the other costs.
Patty, can I propose that I work with John to come up with a model for how you might charge pickleball players, and that you give us a few days? Well, John has to sign up for this, but
yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm around.
So
Hold on.
One of the things that we really need is the costs, the fully loaded costs.
Right.
Until
Understood.
we get that, we shouldn't, in my mind, I'm expressing my opinion here. We should not come up with a fee structure yet. I think that if we get the costs, we can start to look at it more carefully.
fair
I
enough.
think if we get the cost, we can look at it using the same methodology,
Yeah.
which I think, in my opinion, we should stick to, right or wrong, at least for the next year. I think it'll show for pickleball that the cost structure, the fee structure is out of line.
Mhm.
Right? I'm guessing. Bob, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Bob, 10 seconds.
It says mute, so I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go.
Okay. Yes, you need to have it be in the chart of accounts. You need it in the general ledger to be able to identify the costs. Right now, they're
Okay, we're
just
not
all
going to
lumped
solve
together.
that. We're not going to solve
Well, but first of all, I do think we need to do it with you guys, Karen and Patty. You guys have been doing this analysis, and I actually think you guys can do it too. I can just tell you from history that probably about 40% was water and about 40% was labor for maintenance. And so you can take out the water, and you can still divide the maintenance by roughly.
John, John, let's not come up with the number here. I understand I agree with you, but we've asked the town, and I think the town, if this is what we're solving for, should give us that number, and that should be our starting point. That's
Okay.
my
Yeah,
recommendation.
and the other thing, and John, you brought this up, is there is a good point that the leagues are residents only, and the for the adults, and the clubs include non-residents playing on those courts. So I do think there should be a differential there. So we have to factor all that in, and we're just not going to solve that equation overnight, and we need the costs.
I think we need to do it right. I don't think we should do it back of the envelope. And Bob, the finance department can come up with separate costs without creating separate general ledgers. But they do need to be able to separate the costs out for us. I agree with the concept. Okay, Darcy, you had your hand up.
Well, I would just say with the courts, it's probably going to be very hard for us to give you precise costs. So I think maybe a better approach is to look at what other cities charge, what the market might bear, because it's a known fact that recreation fees are highly subsidized. So, and I can just tell you the court costs that we have will just be hard, because I don't have the value of, when the courts were built, how much they cost, et cetera, and like a capital asset depreciation model. We just don't have that.
Okay,
so I guess I don't know that you're going to get the information you need, but I've always thought a good approach here is to survey other cities, see what they charge, and feel out the market. I've worked on a lot of recreation fees, and that's typically the model, rather than looking at it from a cost perspective. And that's dramatically different than other fees, I will say.
Okay.
This is what I was suggesting.
We didn't do that for field. And by the way, we went to the cost recovery method. So, if you are saying that that's not appropriate for the courts, that's fine. I don't think it's appropriate for the fields either, but that's what the town.
Yeah, well, sorry, I don't want to talk too much. I think this should be continued to the next meeting. I don't think it's a matter of days. I think you could take a month on this, because it's council's not going to have time to get back to it till probably August. But we just don't have the cost. We don't have the cost. Like, I don't know the full cost of building the field, of putting, all the major projects we've done, because you'd want to depreciate the cost over the lifetime of it. So that's too hard.
I understand.
The courts, we're probably looking at, as a big renovation that may cost, 50,000, it may cost 100,000. So we're never going to be able to recoup that cost.
Well, you don't do it in 1 year. No, you're
true,
right.
but yeah. But you see my logic, but
I do see your logic, and I don't disagree with it. I was just trying to stick with the methodology that the town has asked us to use.
Well, what I would like to know is what I would like to know in the most simplistic approach is, what are our peers charging? Maybe ask them how they calculated it, so it's not garbage. So look at 6 or 7 of our neighbors, see what they charge. And then tell us how much you think it should be subsidized. Especially, should residents be, non-residents pay more? Should youth be treated different? That, like what Karen mentioned, that is how most cities approach this, is looking at
Now, are you
just a
only talking
percentage.
the courts? You're only talking courts here. Are you talking the whole shebang?
Well, I mean, in theory, you could look at resident and non-resident for the whole shebang. That is one thing.
Well, that's
Um,
gonna take longer.
Well, I understand. Yeah. So that's why I think we're looking at a continuance here and giving you July, August to try to work on this.
I would bring that up for a vote immediately. In the committee.
Is the council going to agree to that?
They may, again, you heard me say earlier, we really do want to address the community hall fees in a timely manner, because I checked the numbers again. We believe we are overcharging for the community hall rentals by a lot.
Yep. But I did check and it's legal to do so.
Yeah, but it doesn't
Not-
feel good when I have residents calling me saying, why are you charging me $2,777 when now we have a study that says we should charge $1,000. So
Yeah, I'm
I
not
just would like to,
disagreeing.
yeah, bifurcate off the whole community hall and then separate out the sport user fees. And the picnic spaces, to be honest, we don't rent. It's only one picnic table. It's the little one next to the Little People's Park. That's the only one. And just, I don't think we rent it very much. I think we rent it like once this year, if at all.
No, Karen had the numbers at the bottom of the slide.
We had 23
Okay.
picnics rented in 2024.
That doesn't make, yeah, okay.
Okay, can I try and bring this
Yeah.
plane in for a landing here?
Yes,
We're
land the
circling.
plane.
Or keep circling. And circling gives me headaches. Okay, for the field fees, let's do field, court, community hall. How about that? Does that make sense? Okay.
Do you want me to share the screen with those numbers?
Well, no,
Okay.
no, because what I'm hearing from Darcy is a little bit different.
Okay.
What I'm hearing from Darcy, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, is that she is willing to go back to the council and ask for more time on the field fees and the court fees to potentially move to a competitive pricing model, not a cost recovery model. Did I hear that correctly?
Well, yeah, because, and I'll just say that sounds odd the way you said it, but it's just, you're just really looking at a subsidy model. And we know all cities subsidize it. So you're trying to equate us.
We can take that and relate it back to a subsidy model.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So we'll come up with the rates and then we'll say, okay, that's a subsidy of 20%. Council may say, nope, I want to go 40, but at least we'd have it from a competitive point of view.
And you could also delineate subsidies for youth sports, for adult leagues, adult clubs, residents, non-residents.
Which we've kind of done on that slide that Karen put together.
Yeah.
But we feel like you need more work to really
Yeah.
get to the competitive rates.
Yeah.
And feel confident in them.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a committee, can I then vote and or recommend to Darcy that we ask for more time on the field? I guess we could put the court fees in there at the same time so that we could come back with a competitive rate proposal translated or presented as a subsidy model. I'm sorry, I'm not saying it in the right way. Or do people understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Karen, John, you understand what
Yes,
I'm saying?
yes, we're going to move to a competitive, to compare ourselves rather than just doing it on a per
Well, we're
cost
gonna
basis.
back end show it as a subsidy calculation, but we're gonna front end with competitors.
Yes.
Yeah, and what I also think needs to be a part of that analysis is the impact. I mean, we know the overall revenue is not that great, but also what is that going to do to revenue? Is it going to increase it? Is it going to decrease it? We need to understand what that projection would be, the financial
We
projection.
need to understand the elasticity. I
Yes,
thought I'd never say that word again
Ah,
after Econ 101, but here I've said it like 3 times. We
Yeah.
need to understand, that's,
right.
that's more complicated, but okay. As a committee, can we then recommend that to Darcy?
I
John?
Yes.
All right, done. Okay. Pickup people can fall off if you want to. And we will be back in touch with you because I'm sure we will ask for your assistance.
and Darcy,
Thank you.
can I get in touch with you separately? I know we're meeting Thursday, but I'll send you an email about just my thoughts on like the things that go with facility rentals, like the
Oh, yeah,
application
yeah,
fee,
that
the
would be
key
very helpful.
deposit,
Yeah,
the blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay,
I
wait a minute.
welcome that.
right.
I haven't finished with community hall.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Okay, that was next.
Oh.
Okay. For community hall, Darcy, are you asking us to take a look at community hall, or what are you asking of Parks and Rec?
I think if you have any observations where you question like something that appears very odd or unusual, send it to me, but I would just prefer to be able to move that forward in a timely manner.
Okay.
And
Well, I think we can point, it's just the complexity more than anything.
well,
I
so
mean, you
yeah,
saw that matrix. There's
yeah,
like 30 lines for
yeah.
facility rentals.
Yeah, I can tell you what we were trying to do was simplify it to one rate for the community hall for everyone. Resident, non-resident. We had former resident. We had
that would be
public
good.
agencies are free. Yeah,
But
and it
then you
doesn't
had a
change.
cleaning fee, you had a key deposit fee, you had a storage fee, you had a
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. Point. I appreciate those comments, and I will talk to the team about those. Point taken. Yeah.
okay. All right. So community hall, you don't want us to do anything for now.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I should add that the groups that get the hall for free now, which, for example, Little League called me and they wanted to use the hall for a movie night and celebrating their wins, that's free. Boy Scouts will continue to be free. There's a grant that covers that. So to the extent youth sports or recreation groups need to use the hall, they're covered under a separate agreement. And I guess I will just say, as an ambassador, if those come up and there's any confusion, like Little League has to pay or some sports group has to pay for the hall if they're having an event or a night, just please reach out to me and I can handle that.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Can we kind of close this agenda item? Is there anything outstanding? Okay. Darcy, do we need to get anything to you formally?
No, but let's still meet Thursday to chat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then
Thank
do I
you.
need to stay on for the bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we move to the bathrooms quick then?
Yes.
Okay. We didn't talk about this. What do we have for the bathrooms? Is it just discussion or?
Well, I think the first thing is did everybody read the agenda materials for the meeting tomorrow night with ASCC and Planning Commission?
I did.
I did. John, were you?
I had AI do a summary for me. No, I'm only kidding.
Okay.
So maybe we could just.
It's a pretty short, it's a short read. It's mostly bullet points with
Okay.
photos. Am I allowed, can I,
I think
I
you and
wanna-
I are in agreement, so you can summarize our points.
Okay, I have some bullet points because Patty and I think that we need to, in writing, submit our comments from Parks and Rec prior to the meeting, so ASCC and Planning Commission can read them. And these are not in any particular order. These are just thoughts. But John, just to let you know, the cost estimates that the landscape architect has provided are $1 million for a 170 square foot 2 unit restroom. And 1.3 million if we include the concessions as a part of it. And also the topographic or site survey has not been done, which was one of the things that we had requested. So let me just share some thoughts that we might want to include.
Can I just
That's-
make a point though of clarification? And I know this was made earlier, so I'll just reiterate it. Because the Parks and Rec committee right now is a town manager, non-Brown Act committee, you aren't eligible to make comments to the ASCC or Planning Commission. You make comments to me, which I know is awkward, but that is technically
Actually, I
Brown
prefer
Act
that.
rule.
Sorry, go ahead.
And
We can make
Well,
public comments.
you
How-
can make a comment as an individual. You should not be discussing any individual comments at a town committee meeting. And that's because you're you're as a non-Brown Act body, you can't be an advisor to anyone, any other committee, anything.
They aren't a committee commission.
But it sounds like it's the Brown Act change.
It's
we
the
went-
Brown Act. Yeah.
Yes,
You
that's
can't,
fine.
you cannot, you're not a body that can comment to another body
Okay,
right now.
so
You just
Darcy,
can't do
could
it.
we send a
fine.
letter in that is signed by myself, Patty, and John, but it doesn't say Parks and Rec Committee on it?
I No.
Well,
But what
why
you
not?
can
It's
do,
free-
here, I have an idea. You can send it to me and I can transmit it. But I just want to be clear. Just send it to me and then I will forward it as
Okay.
official public comment. Yeah.
Okay, so some of the things is that I believe, and people, let me go through these and then we can talk about them. First of all, Parks and Rec and Little League are key stakeholders in this Ford Field project, but we were not given a chance to review the presentation deck. So therefore, this was all new to us. Until the cost estimates are thoroughly reviewed, I would respectfully request that any decisions are made in this Planning Commission ASCC meeting. And quite honestly, if the project costs cannot be brought down substantially, I think we should probably cancel the project. That's not what Parks and Rec had in mind when it came. We had a $500,000 budget or so. We stressed that to the parties, and it's come back significantly higher. If we cancel the project, can we get back any of the unused money that CALA hasn't done because they have other pieces to their phase one, and we could maybe apply that money to the court resurfacing project or other recreational projects. And just as a note, a two-stall bathroom, it's 170 square feet, and they're saying it's $1 million price tag. So and I'm not sure that includes the planning fees, but that's $5,882 a square foot for bathrooms, which is totally high. Let's just say it's very high for the norm. And this ties to the cost estimates because when I worked with CXT and I got quotes, the exact same footprint, the landscape architects are using the exact same footprint that we found. And the cost that we were quoted, and granted it's old because it's almost a year old, was $228,000. And that included the installation surcharge, the engineering, the state fees, the transportation costs. Now, granted, it didn't take into consideration us putting in the concrete pad, the utilities connections, the walkway for ADA and that. So I realized there's more to it. And just for the bathroom unit, the one they're estimating at $1 million, that was $121,700. So there's quite a disconnect. And we would really want to break down the construction. What's the building cost, the concrete pad, the path, the parking? Are the CALA estimates included? That needs to get broken down a lot more, or I think it's a deal breaker. And prior to making a decision on the site location, meaning the snack shack versus the parking lot areas, they call it a topographic survey. I learned that it's really a site survey where we would know exactly where the building could be placed. But that should be completed, that there shouldn't be any decisions made on that, which is what we requested last fall. But that we do agree that the right field option can be eliminated due to the costs associated with all the ADA access that we'd have to provide from the road and field and such. So this is just, again, the same thing, a refresher on what happened in the last Planning Commission meeting. And there were, what is this? 7 commissioners who said either location would work, with 4 of them actually thinking the existing snack shack area was better. And 2 planning commissioners, Karen Vatra and Linda Brothers, that were only comfortable following our 75-foot setback guideline. Now in May, I represented Parks and Rec, and we had 3 representatives from Little League, and Tony was there. We did meet with CALA about what they called a site constraints meeting. And we did tell them that we wanted to really explore construction in the existing location of the snack shack, and that the loss of parking should be minimized, and that concessions should be included. We were very clear with those requests, and we want to reiterate that's a part of it. And I also met with Darcy, and in the follow-up email, we expressed those concerns. This is just an aside, but new state law allows residents a 4-foot ADU setback. And therefore, it is possible that a resident along Alpine Road could build a structure, an ADU, and adhere to that 4-foot setback. So there is now a precedent to build within the scenic corridor setback. And I think I'd like to hear what the Planning Commission and ASCC have, what their thoughts are about that. And then the other thing is we're very concerned, and this ties back to the costs, because when we secured some of our pledges, 80,000 was contingent on having the concessions as a part of it, which, the price is now 1.3 million. And it's possible that other 110,000 is impacted, but we haven't checked on that. And that we feel that this is just too high of a fundraising challenge and the wrong thing for the town to be doing given its financial situation. So that's essentially the bullet points and what we wanted to stress. And I'm interested in other people's feedback.
So I don't mean to be confrontational, but I am, unfortunately. I just went out and asked Claude, and Claude says that a non-Brown Act committee can provide feedback into a commission. So I'm not going to solve that right this second, but I really think we need to drill into this non-Brown Act. And I agree completely that it needs to be defined what we can and can't do. Because I personally am not willing just to default Parks and Rec into a Brown Act if we are capable of doing some of the things that we want to do. Anyway, enough said there. So I agree with Karen. I think it's kind of escalated to the point of, is it really a feasible project? I personally look at that kind of fundraising, and unless we have someone in town write a check for a significant portion of it, you're not going to get this by getting $25 pledges outside of Roberts on a Saturday afternoon. It's just not going to happen. So I think if this is the direction that the ASCC Planning Commission decides to go ahead with as Parks and Rec, it would be hard for me to support it. Or personally, as Patty Dews, it would be hard for me to support it. I wonder if we're working with the right partners and if they really are hearing us and solving for what we can actually do versus what they want to build, personally. So that's my comments.
Just real quick, the only thing going on here is that it's up to $1 million to whatever million and what, or much you just said. It was $500,000 when we were doing the last Ford Field renovation. So I know everything's a lot more expensive, but that's a lot, double. I'm not sure about that. It's a lot. If it was $500,000, I think it's achievable, right? Between the grant and fundraising, I don't know if we can get another 500. There's actually some people out there that might be willing, and it's kind of hard to say, will you donate hundreds of thousands of dollars for a bathroom, from specific individual, but there's no question, or there would be like 5 people to ask, frankly, and that's the way fundraising works. There's a very small number that donate a lot of money, and then I wouldn't even think about that other trying to get $100 from people, right? I'm not sure. The big thing here is the $1 million, right? Because let's just say we need an additional $500,000. That doesn't. I wouldn't feel personally comfortable going and asking some of these people to donate that much money for a small bathroom.
Well, I just worry about the PR impact too when the town is in the financial situation it's in to decide they're going to go spend $1 million on a bathroom.
One bathroom, right?
The optics are not great on that one.
Is there something we could do that is
before John? We're really only be asking questions now, but David, did you have any comments from the public before we move to discussion? No? Okay. All right, sorry. Just wanted to give him that option.
Is there something in between porta potties and full-scale flush toilets?
Well, yeah, we had those things was it last year or the year before? They were kind of trailer things.
Right.
We've done those. People said they were terrible. They smelled.
They are. They're like porta potties.
Well, there's 2 things. We did look at those nice trailer options, and the planning staff that's actually no longer at Portola Valley that researched this said that you can't use those on a permanent basis. Those are only allowed in San Mateo County on a temporary basis, and that we had them like for the All-Star games or something. They didn't have them there for the full season. And then I also checked in. The first place we went was to look at pit toilets like we have at Windy Hill, and they were those would be less expensive. Obviously not as nice, but there were some concerns because we're so close to the creek over there, as well as the odor, because you have people sitting for long periods of time watching a baseball game. It's very different than when you walk from the parking lot to the trail at Windy Hill, and that odors can
Linger.
linger, and it might make it that it was not recommended. So we kind of decided to go for the full route, and the fact that the sewer line is right there on Alpine Road, it's on that side of the road. So that was sort of, we did look at those very early on, because we knew the costs would be lower. So, I mean, we could go back and look at that again. We could look at pit toilets.
David, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. Based on the most recent thing, I agree with Karen. If we're going to do it, it needs to have a sewer. It needs to have water. Otherwise, it's no. I mean, the middle of the corkscrew swamp, Audubon has these really nice composting toilets that probably cost more than it would cost us to build a bathroom, but we're 100 feet from the road. We're going to want a concession stand. Honestly, if we're just replacing porta potties with a bathroom, $1 million seems strange. So I think we need a concession stand. We need water. We need sewer. And anything we can do to find out why it costs $1 million and if it can be done for less, I think is huge. I mean, we're encouraging housing in the town, and yet if we can't build a bathroom for $1 million, how's anybody going to build anything? So I'd love to break that down and see where the costs are coming from and try and do something reasonable. So thank you.
Thanks, David. Okay. So, I guess we could put these comments in a letter and send them to Darcy and or make individual public comments at the meeting until we get this Brown Act, non-Brown Act thing figured out. Any other comments?
Can I just answer one of the questions just so that you have some information going into this? So some of you do know there's a deadline on the grant, which I'm well aware of. I have checked with the grantee, and it could be used for other capital projects. So I just will plant the seed that what our plan is to do is after the ASCC and Planning Commission meeting, take this to the town council. I don't have a date yet, but they'll be the official decision makers on what to do. But if we pivot, then we would ask, okay, what are other eligible projects for the grant? And for the group, it's $180,000. And I may need your help on that if they do that pretty quickly. Important to note, it can't be spent on maintenance. It has to be spent on sort of a bigger construction project. I don't know what that would be. It could
Was
be
core resurfacing considered maintenance?
So if it's a major resurfacing, yes. And I guess the devil's in the details there to clear the state, but it would probably be more than just, as I would say, like lipstick on the pig. It would be kind of ripping up the surface and repairing all the cracks. So potentially a longer closure, but potentially a longer lifetime of the court. And we have, again, $180,000 plus there's a 20% match.
But I thought, so Darcy, given that we thought the 20% match would be for this landscape architect, wouldn't qualify if we don't do the project. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments on the Ford Field agenda item? Okay, closing that. All right, Darcy, I guess you can
leave. Okay, well, I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
I'm actually very happy that you attended. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
And stay up
I'm
so
sorry
late.
I missed so many of the other ones, but something tells me you'll be seeing more of me in the future.
Awesome.
This was so much fun. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow night, and then I'll meet some of you on Thursday.
Thanks,
And I will say, if you can't sleep tonight and you have more comments on the fee schedule or the Ford Field bathrooms, just email me. I always want to hear from people, and I don't mean to make the Brown Act or non-Brown Act thing complicated. Just send me anything and I will review it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll try and make this quick. Um, I just had, going back to the safety element, I just had, so here we go. A Parks and Rec Commission can't provide comments to a planning commission. That's what Claude says. And Claude is my best friend.
I love Claude. I mean, until it kills me, I'm feeling really good about it right now. I use it every day.
Claude and I have some very deep discussions. Okay. On the safety element, I read through it, God forbid. There were two things that I came up with that I thought were related to Parks and Rec. Evacuation plan. I wondered if, suppose there's a soccer game going on at Rosati's or at the town center, should we have signage, maps, instructions at the fields for emergency procedures and evacuations, particularly for people that are out of town? So I thought about that. I wondered if our fields, at one time, our town center was designated as, and I'm spacing on the name, as kind of the safe zone where people could go down to. I wondered if our fields were designated, like Rosati's, as a safe zone, and should that be publicized? Are there any requirements then that we would have to, changes, upgrades, etc., that we would have to make to our fields if they were designated as a safe zone? And 3, under new developments and subdivision approval. Karen, I think this is along the line of something that you recommended like 3 years ago. Should there be a designation of a certain amount of space in new developments for recreational open space as a means of fire prevention, as it relates to the safety element, certainly as a means for recreational open space as it relates to our committee. So those were the comments that I came up with and was going to provide as input into the safety element. If anybody else has any other that they pointed out, or if you have any comments on those.
I'm impressed that you even thought of these. I did read the safety element and I didn't see how it applied to us. It's interesting because I will say on number 2, because Portola Road and Alpine Road are our evacuation routes, I didn't think of the fields as being gathering places because we need to get out of there. Does that make sense? Like,
Well, yes and no. So if there's
yeah.
a blockage on Alpine Road, which there might be, because suppose there's a traffic accident at the corner of Alpine Westridge, and people can't get out, and Rostradero is a zoo. People might pull over into the Rosati's parking lot and use the field as a safe zone. So I think there's, obviously you can't work through every, well, I guess I'm not supposed to be answering questions. You can't work
No,
through
no,
every,
I mean, I'm impressed with these. I think this is great, Patty. I think you did a good job. I didn't see the connection. I knew that the recreation element is a piece of the general plan and that the safety element is a piece of a general plan, but I didn't even make any connections. So, kudos. That's what I'm trying to say on this.
oh, okay, thank you. John,
And
do you
I
have any
think,
questions? Just questions.
No,
right
I just want to say kudos too, because that sounded so good when she said it. Yes. No, it's great.
now. All right.
I
Dave,
do actually see, by the way, I see those fields as being a great place to go. Depends on what kind of crisis there is, right? If it's a fire, sure, maybe keep moving south. But if it's an earthquake, then I don't know. Those fields seem like a really great place to be.
maybe
Right.
not the town center field.
Yeah, depends on where the earthquake is.
Yeah.
Right.
David Cardinal, do you have a comment?
Yeah, sure. I think the point about safe zones is great. I don't think you guys need to worry about it in the sense that there are some technical definitions of what's possible, and the emergency preparedness people and the Woodside Fire people are scouting those out, and they should be part of our evacuation plan. And they measure and this and that, and there are a bunch of requirements for where to let people go. And obviously, like you said before, if everybody can get out of town, great. But if they can't, there's a certain number of places that are safe havens. And they, other than,
Safe
you know,
havens, that's the word.
yeah, other than hearing whether they think one or more of the fields are uh, valuable for that. Like, I don't know, Zots Field is great in one way, but it has limited access. But there's a bunch of rules, and they'll figure that out and all that, and then maybe some signage would be great. So I think that's a great thought. And some of the fields, I'm sure, will be places that people might want to go when and if we have a horrible disaster and can't leave.
Okay, thank you, David. All right, so if there aren't any other comments or questions, then I will formalize this as our, well, I don't know if I can feed this into the Planning Commission for the safety element because of non-Brown Act, but I will put this in as a personal comment if I can't. God, it's a sad day when we can't give feedback. All right.
Well, I think because you're non-Brown Act, they can't arrest you. So you can almost certainly provide feedback to anyone you want. And if they accept it inappropriately, then they'll go to jail. I don't know, but
That's right.
I cannot possibly see how,
I'd
if
like
you're
to
a
see them
non-Brown Act
stop me.
committee. Exactly. I would feel free to send whatever you want to whoever you want. And if they want to delete it, then that's their right.
Nobody
Yeah.
else seems hesitant to give feedback from what I see. I think there's lots of feedback out there. We should just give it all as much as we can. Anyway.
You know what? I'm just going to do it and ask for forgiveness. Anyway. Okay, that's the safety element. All right. Moving right along. Budget status. I think we're approved. I don't know. It was weird. Town council reviewed the budget requests at the last council meeting, and the minutes state that no action was taken. So I haven't been told that we don't have a budget. So actually that was one of the things I was going to ask Darcy. It's still on the schedule. So I have to start spending money is the thing. So I'm going to confirm it with Darcy.
Yeah, I got the impression that it was approved and it was presented in one meeting and then there was another meeting where Tony, I think just the last meeting, Tony, it was on the agenda and it might have been a consent agenda item.
I read it and specifically said council took no action. So
Okay.
I'm assuming it means approved. So anyway, we'll go for that. Okay. I'm going to defer game night. Let's talk about Zots. In case there's anything specific that, I guess the big thing is we need to decide. Like Chotsky's, right?
Are you talking about Zots to Tots or are you talking about Zots parking?
Zots to the fun run.
Okay, the picnic and the fun run. Yeah. How about the word scramble? The Zots to Tots scramble. Well, I was trying to think of something that's not run because there's bikes. Anyway, keep thinking then.
All right.
All right. Well,
Scramble is like a golf tournament.
well,
Good one, Patty. Good one that you know that.
It is.
well,
It is.
but people scramble to get places too, is what I was, anyway, just an idea.
All right.
Um, well, I think in our last meeting, what we said is once the budget was approved, John and I could connect
Right.
and go over things, and we shared that potential logo already, right? The logos. And we can look at, we just, let's see, this is the June meeting. So if we,
Are we going with the same one or we're going with the other one?
I thought that we were going to do the other one, those, right, John? Do you remember this?
You're muted, John.
Sorry, my phone cut off halfway through your thing there. So I'm going to use my computer again. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Hold
So,
on.
I thought that we agreed on the logo we hadn't used. The one we had two created last year that we loved. Yeah.
I'm fine with either. You guys can make a recommendation.
Okay. Well, I think maybe John and I can connect and we can go over, I can show him what was done last year. And then maybe will there be enough time if we come back in July, or is that too late?
I don't know. You tell me. I mean, we need to order them. How long is the order time?
It's not, well, if we use the same vendors that I use, that would be enough time.
Okay.
Unless people don't like it, and then we have to go back to the drawing board. But I think they're, I don't know, John, what do you think?
You know what? If people don't like it, tough shit. Excuse me.
I think John
You need to go
got dropped.
We lost John.
Okay, well, I will follow up with John, and we can do stuff since we're not a Brown Act committee. We can actually update and come up with
Do whatever the hell we want.
Right. Okay.
Just can't talk to anybody about it.
Okay. I will follow up with John on that.
All right. Thank you.
And
So
then
I'm gonna start ordering picnic stuff, but I'm gonna give us a little bit of leeway so that if we decide to do some different things, we can. I won't spend the whole shebang.
well, the different I mean, I think we should do the dunk tank again.
Yeah.
However, I think we need a
Should get a better one.
quality
Yeah.
dunk tank.
I agree.
And the one thing I was going to say, Patty, that actually cost us a fair amount of money were the Bliss Pops. And then I don't know if we need those because wasn't there ice cream from the library, Friends of the
Yes, there
Library?
was. Yeah, there was.
So maybe we should connect with Friends of the Library and figure out a way to, maybe they'll donate that, right? And we can talk about it, and then we direct the runners much further into
Yeah.
the town center, because that was a problem too, right?
That'd be fine. Yeah. I definitely think we could not do them this year.
Yeah, and maybe the library's close, we somehow, they know that they can go get ice cream immediately and they get into the picnic.
Just put a sign up at the finish line.
Yeah,
Says ice cream at the library.
yeah, and we can promote that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I'm back, by the way. Sorry about that. It
Oh, so John,
disconnected at the wrong time.
we agreed that you and I are going to connect offline
Yes.
and get a plan together and start sharing that plan. And maybe in the July meeting, we'll have everything final.
That'd be great.
Does that sound good?
Yes, I want to go through everything you did last time.
Yeah.
This is a
So
little
we
bit
can meet,
different.
we can meet on that. And then oh, you weren't here. Well, we handed out these popsicles at the end of the race, and we've decided that we're not going to do that. One, because it was pretty expensive, but two, because everybody got log jammed on Portola Road at the entrance area, trying to wait for their popsicle. So we're going to do something and send them to the Friends of the Library ice cream place that's well within the town center, so we get them off the road faster.
Yes, there's always there's something like this every year. It's like organized chaos.
Yeah.
So we'll just
Maybe we
talk
call
through
it the Zots to Tots Chaos.
Right. That would be more accurate.
Um,
What the crawl? Zots to Tots Crawl.
Are we going to serve beer?
That's more like a beer, yeah. It's more like a.
But that, yeah, we'll figure it out. Maybe Dave Cardinal will come up
But
with
Ask
the,
Claude. I bet Claude could come up with something.
Hey,
There we
look, if
go.
we want to do a fun event, though, if we want to add one, we can do a beer crawl in Portola Valley. We'll have to figure out how that works. There's like only 2 places, but
you know,
people would show up for that.
all you need houses with kegs.
There you
And
go. I
people
have
can-
mine, by the way.
It's a revolving cocktail party.
I'm all set up. I can actually, Eric can already tell you about 5 people with them, and they're all along Alpine Road.
Maybe that's
You know,
how we raised the $1 million.
Right. The Corleys, the Mike Randall, near Ormondale. We got a bunch of them. That would be fun.
So
That
all
would
the
be really
drinkers
fun.
are on Alpine Road.
I would
Well,
donate.
All I've come
You
up
can.
with is ramble, which isn't really any better than scramble. So I'm not sure I've added much.
Well, I'm writing it down.
Man, there you go.
Okay.
All right, okay. Do we
Hey,
need
we
to talk
should
about
really
anything on
consider
game
that.
night?
We really should think about.
I
The
think
beer
that's
crawl.
a great idea.
Isn't that fun? Wouldn't that be
I am
fun?
not even going to put that in the minutes. Okay, that'd be great PR. Hey, Parks and Rec is now thinking about a beer crawl.
You know what? It would be the pre the on Zots to Tots Eve. It would be the carb loading.
That would be fun. I think we would get a really big crowd. I really do.
Okay, that could be next year while Karen is chairman, not this year. Okay, come on, guys, it's getting late. Anything on game night we need to talk about? No? Okay.
No, I think we're going to be set, right? By the way, we have a trivia night at Alpine this Saturday night. If you guys want to come, if anybody wants to help score just for practice, that would be helpful. But anyway, and it will be exactly the same format.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have some questions for you. We can talk about that when we meet.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I can't help. I actually will be at a wedding on Saturday night.
Yeah, it sounds common. Good for
Yeah.
you. That sounds like fun.
Yeah,
Are you getting married, Karen? Finally? After all this
finally.
time?
Yeah, we decided to tie the knot.
Yeah, whatever.
Actually, it's all our friends' children that are getting married now. So,
Okay. Sydney's not here. We can't talk about the cleaning out of the storage shed, but I know they've started working on it. Status, profession. Oh, Ford Field we already talked about. And Rosati's parking, who knows? Again, I've asked to be a partner in the lease negotiations, and I've been told that the parking lot for Rosati's is not part of the lease negotiation right now. And the parking for Ford Field is part of the master fee schedule. I forgot what they proposed there. Didn't they keep it the same? Karen, you're on mute.
at Ford Field, they're recommending an hourly rate, which is just slightly higher than before, and then a monthly rate. So that's different, which was the monthly rate. They have an hour. Let me check my.
Oh, I've got it here.
Yeah, hang on, but I'll find it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, shit, I just closed it.
hang on. Okay, Ford Field parking lot would go from the fully loaded cost they claim is 117 a day. We're currently charging 108, and Matrix is recommending that it stays at 108. And my notes say, why don't we increase that rate? And there's a deposit, which makes no sense there. And then oh, I'm sorry, that's for residents. Excuse me, that's for private resident party. For commercial use, it would go to 117. 100% of full cost recovery, and then monthly it's $3,529. And I don't think that the town feels that they can go over this, given this is on the fee schedule and not a lease, a negotiated
The
lease.
cost.
It's 100% of the cost recovery. So $3,500 a month, essentially.
And does that get you the whole parking lot?
All day long, every day.
Oh, well, I think there's an arbitrage opportunity here. I think I'm going to rent it and then see who wants to sublease it from me.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work with Little League, and I mean, I know that there's some agreement worked out, but it having it rented every
You're gonna
day.
have to have blackout dates.
Yeah,
Have to have blackout dates.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not, I paid $22 as a faculty member at Stanford for one parking spot for one day. So, you know, not that this is Stanford, but it's pretty popular. So I don't know how we can deal with that.
Well, the feedback that I have received is the reason that we can't that the parking lot is not appraised highly. Well, that's a cost recovery that they're doing, but the Zotz one, which is 1.2 acres of parking, but the claim is it's not developed. It's so that you can't make that same appraisal. This is what I've been told. I'm not involved, but I'm
Yep.
just sharing that feedback, which is, um, even though we think it's more valuable, apparently the appraisal's not coming back with what I think it should be worth. So,
Yeah, I I know I've heard all that, the Nexus studies, and we need this, we need that. But I do wonder, and I'm traveling a bit near term, but I'll try and tackle some of that with Darcy. Like, what if we just said, well, no, we're not going to rent it. That's not enough money. We have residents who want to use it. Um, we have baseball who wants to use it. We have soccer who wants to use the other field. Um, no, we're not interested. What happens then? Do they get to bid up or, it's kind of, I don't know, it's an unknown, but, and Darcy's really smart and she's done, this stuff on the side of Stanford, who's this 2 steps away from the devil. So she knows what she's doing, as far as getting stuff for the town. So I'll be curious if she has any thoughts on that or if we're really boxed into a corner.
Yeah.
Because at some point it's like, well, no, fine, it's not worth renting Ford Field parking. We use it for hiking, we use it for baseball, we use it for the people.
Use it for a
It's just
bathroom.
not-
Use it for a
Yeah.
bathroom.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Anything else? We set a record here.
no, but
Adjourning
Patty,
at 9:25.